I got really nostalgic about reply videos. It's what hooked me to the site. Venom Fang X versus Thunderfoot. Jesus Freak 777 versus The Amazing Atheist. There used to be reply videos all the time, and every single channel used to have like a nemesis, and it was very popcorn inducing. It was very beautiful to watch. Now there are no more reply videos. There was a time when YouTube actually had the response video function where you could click on a button and you could get the response. So yeah, I mean, I really miss that. I don't know why they took it off, because it was fun. But I decided to do a vintage reply video today. I haven't watched this, but it's I guess like a communist controversy between theology and capitalism, like which is worse, which is more offensive. And I haven't seen the video. I don't know what position Vaush takes, but I guess it's going to be very interesting regardless. So we're going to watch it together and add some commentary to it.
Shoe on head. Right now they're demolishing the Chapelle Saint Joseph in Lille, France. See below. Saw this. This is what they want to build at the same location. That's based. It's a useless building nationalists love. I wish they were all gone and replaced with modern malls. Oh, God.
Vaush bad. Vaush bad. Vaush bad.
Sorry, Shoe's right on this one. Shoe's correct on this one.
I don't believe there is anything that screams capitalism more than a mall. We didn't have a single mall under the Iron Curtain over here. It was considered to be wasteful capitalism. It was considered to be imperialist degeneracy. Like, malls were viewed with disdain, like the idea that in capitalist nation people can be so wasteful and have a mall was just ugh. I think even in that video game Civilization, America gets to have the unique building called the mall because it's so tied to American culture. So seeing a Marxist cheering on the fact that a church is being destroyed isn't shocking. Okay, because they did that in the USSR, they did that in my country, they destroy churches all the time. But what is shocking is to see that they're cheering the fact that a mall is being built into place. That is astonishing. And the justification for it is also funny. It's like, oh, it pisses off nationalists. I mean, starving kittens pisses off nationalists, but just because that is the case, I hope you're not going to do it. It's just so weird. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's what one of Romania's intellectuals said. Communists don't really love the poor. They just hate the rich. And I guess in the case of that guy from Twitter, he doesn't necessarily love progressive ideology. He just hates nationalists. And it's like, okay, well, if a church being destroyed gets a mall in its place and it's going to upset the right people, then I'm all for it. Such a weird way of viewing the world. Jesus.
Who cares? Dude, that's history. That's a cathedral being taken down. You kidding? We don't build buildings like that anymore. Like, you want malls? It's only like 150 years old? Only like 150 years old. Fuck you. Jesus. I'll admit, this is a prettier building than most, but still, it's a cathedral. Look at this. The Chapelle Saint Joseph.
The reason Vaush looks like Cartman now, asking like, how can I reach these kids? Is because he is struggling really hard to explain to Marxists on why a historical church should be preserved. Because you can't make that argument from within a Marxist mindset. There is nothing within Marxist ideology that justifies why you should preserve historical churches. In fact, that's why the USSR tore down a lot of them. That's why the people in my country tore down a lot of them. You cannot make that Marxist argument. In fact, you can use Marxist ideology to make the counter-argument on why they should be destroyed. The counter-argument would be that instead of that church, you can build a huge tenant building with brutal architecture, which can house up to 500 families living in a matchbox-sized apartment. One of those lifeless gray buildings with no decorations whatsoever, because the idea is to use as little resources as possible so that more resources can go around for more people. Because remember, in communist land, everyone has the right to a house. Everyone has the right to a home. So space becomes a very valuable commodity. You can't just build one house anymore. That's wastefulness. That's wasteful imperialism. No, like big tenant buildings, large, brutal architecture. They're just functional. And matchbox apartment. People shouldn't be sitting at home anyway. They should be out working all the time or socializing so that the party can listen to what they're speaking. So that people can hear what people think. Knowing what people think is very important in a Marxist society, right? You need to control. Everyone needs to work for the same goal, to reach equality. Otherwise, they're counter-revolutionary in nature. They're reactionary, dare I say. So, yeah, I mean, you can make the Marxist argument on why a church should be destroyed. And the fact that the church is a piece of history, that's not a Marxist argument. Because if you look at why we preserve, just do a simple Google search, and you'll find probably the same thing that you've been thinking, is that the reason people preserve historical resources is that it gives the community its unique character. Historic preservation provides to link to the roots of the community and its people. So why would you want to keep a link to the past if you're talking about imperial colonial France? Why would you want to keep a link to its racist heritage? It's the same reason why you have Marxists going around the US declaring war on the stone people and tearing down statues left and right, which are also historical landmarks. It's why you have people in the UK deciding, oh my god, Winston Churchill, horrible. Like, there is no leader in the past that would live up to a Marxist expectations of the present. Like, if you're going to judge today by tomorrow's standards, no one from today is going to be a moral person. Imagine if in the future they decide that vegans are right and animal cruelty is horrible. So anyone that eats meat is a disgusting human being. Then they would look towards people like us from the past, and no one would live up to the standards. Like everyone would be a person not worthy of having a statue or being memorized in any way. Regardless of what we did, we're horrible because we eat meat and we don't speak out against it. It's why Mao's revolution did the same thing. They erased the past, destroyed the temples, destroyed statues, destroyed historical paintings. It's why in my country they did similar things. They banned books, they censored a lot of authors, and they did their best in order to erase the things from the past that they didn't like. So yeah, I mean, you literally cannot have any argument from a Marxist side on why a church should exist. Because Marxism doesn't believe in spirituality, it doesn't believe in things of beauty like virtues and other things. It's purely an economical ideology that focuses on making people equal. And wealth has to do with how that happens. And I just don't see the argument. Now, Vaush, despite being a Marxist, I know it's controversial for some people what I'm going to say, but like, no, it's true. He's still a human being, and when he looks at a church, especially a Gothic architecture type of church, he does notice beauty. And again, like, there is no beauty within Marxist ideology. That concept doesn't exist. Like, look, brutal architecture. Why? It looks ugly as fuck, but it's functional. Okay, it reaches the purpose of making people equal, of giving a home to everyone. There's a lot of people, there's little space, so just, and there's few resources, so use them as best as you can, put everyone in a matchbox, so that more people can have buildings and houses to live in. There is no room for luxury. That luxury does not exist in a Marxist society. It's wasteful. But Vaush, being a human being and looking at a beautiful Gothic structure, he does notice the beauty of it, and doesn't want it to be gone. Like, he doesn't, like the human part of him transcends his Marxism.
Make sure I have the right one. Which one is it? This is in France? Yeah, France. France. Or as they say in France, les France. That's what they say. I can't find any pictures of it. This isn't your joke to me. What building do you think is acceptable to replace the cathedral? Don't replace the cathedral! It's a chapel, not a cathedral? Okay, a chapel. Thank you.
By the way, for all you heathens out there, cathedral is a grand building, magnificent, built on the back of the Christians' believers. Chapel is a small building, very tiny, fit for a small community, but cathedral is grand. Do you know what you get when you enter a cathedral? You get to enter the house of the Lord, motherfucker.
Jesus. No, why? It's cool. What's the harm? Chapel St. Joseph? Yeah, I can't find pictures of it. I keep getting other stuff. I think this is it. Well, there's probably a lot of St. Joseph chapels, right? I mean, that's probably a thing that the world has many of. I mean, look at this. It's beautiful. Look at that. Oh.
It's wasteful, Vaush. It's wasteful. That's what it is. You now have the hard-working taxpayer having to toil the land, and then the government takes taxes and uses the taxes to fund the chapel. It's wasteful. Like, those taxes should go to starving children. Come on, if you're a Marxist, that's what you would say. You would also disagree that a mall should be built in its place. No mall. No mall's horrible. Big tenant, gray in color, brutal architecture to house the hungry families of the working people. That's what you need to advocate for.
See how it's falling apart? The reason they're tearing it down is because they can no longer afford to renovate it, to upkeep it, to keep it, you know, presentable. That's really sad. So much history.
Yeah, but it's imperialist history. Imperialist, colonial history.
Reminds me of
Vaush.
Bloodborne. I hate you people. Jesus.
It does look like Bloodborne.
Zoomer language for fucking gothic architecture. Dude, everything used to look so Bloodborne.
No, Bloodborne is the way things used to look.
It's a symbol of oppression. I'm glad it's being knocked down. How is it not? Dude, they're knocking down the Capitol building? That's based, bro. It's a symbol of oppression. Dude, they're knocking down every religious structure ever meant. Dude, every public works project for like centuries was fucking religious in nature, okay?
Where's this energy when they're knocking down historical Thomas Jefferson statues? It's just like... Or when they try to cancel historical people, where's the same energy?
I hate you people so much. This is a thing of beauty. Church sucks? Then don't go in it! then don't enter it! Then appreciate it from the outside!
You know, Vaush, you just BTFO'd cancel culture right there. I mean, when someone comes like, oh, I don't like it, then don't fucking watch it! I remember, like, he talked about an edgy anime once, redo of Healer, and he looked at the story and it was too problematic for him, and it was like, I would not allow it. And it's like, okay, well, the same way you would not allow it, other people would not allow this church, I suppose. But it's very interesting with these people that like to censor culture and sanitize it for the rest of us, okay? If they don't like it, you shouldn't like it either. If they like it, here's 10 reasons why you shouldn't censor it. I generally like it. It's difficult to believe that you can see people that constantly advocate for why other things should be banned, but when someone advocates why a church should be torn down, they're like, no. See, I like this church. It's like, okay, I see.
Jesus.
Ah, now I see why he likes the church. It's because he is a Christian. He's not a true Marxist. Vaush is a Christian. I mean, if he can go to someone like Count Dankula, and because Count Dankula says racist jokes, then it means that Count Dankula is racist. Then by the same logic, I can go, well, if Vaush defends a Christian building and says Jesus, he said Jesus, did he not? Did I hear incorrectly? He said Jesus. He believes in the Lord. He believes in Jesus. Why would he say Jesus if he doesn't believe? Prove you're not a Christian, Vaush. Like, you need to prove you're not a Christian in order to show that you're a pure Marxist. And you genuinely believe in the forward thinking of Marxism, and you're not stuck in the dogma and superstitions of the past. Because it seems like your battle and your fight with superstition and mysticism is still lingering within your soul. But no, seriously, isn't this what people into cancel culture do? It's like someone says an offensive phrase, like it says once like "you people" or says the N-word or something. Oh, clearly they're a racist. But if someone goes and says "God damn it" or "Jesus," you would not make the connection that they're religious, despite he actually invoked God and he wanted God to damn it. It's like you don't give the charitability anymore. You know, like there was actually a case recently where a New York Times journalist got fired because he said the N-word by quoting a girl. Apparently, like, he was on a trip with some kids, and one of the kids asked the journalist, hey, is it okay? Do you think it's okay that our colleague got a suspension? And he goes like, why did she get a suspension? Because she said the N-word. And then the journalist repeats the word, and I was like, did he say the N-word? But he doesn't say the N-word, he says the actual word. Did she say it because she was quoting a rap lyric or something like that? And by just saying the word, got him to have to resign from the New York Times. I mean, this is the level of ridiculousness, of persecution of a leftist person that works at the New York Times. We're not talking about a right-winger or a conservative here, right? But if someone says Jesus, no one would think it's like, he's a religious person. No, like, people would know. It's just a figure of speech. It's an expression. Okay? He doesn't actually believe in God. And even if he defends a church, he doesn't defend the church because he's religious. He might defend the church for other reasons. Like, for example, he loves the architecture. He looks at it and finds it beautiful. Or he loves the effort that the people from the past did, right? Because by this logic, if we're going to destroy every single oppressive building, we should also start with the pyramids. I mean, the pyramids were built on the backs of slaves, right? So why would you keep such a thing? Not to mention, like, back when they were built, those slaves working on those pyramids did a much harder job than the people working on this cathedral did, because they didn't have the tools to do it. So by the logic that we need to destroy everything that's oppressive or reminds us of the past, the pyramids has got to go, man. Like, that would be like the first thing that would have to be swept away by the sand of progress.
You don't like church? Fine, good. I don't like church either. I've been to one sermon in my life. It was when I was visiting my grandparents as a kid.
He got tainted.
Doesn't mean I can't appreciate. Fucking looks nice. God. It's too expensive to maintain. Why not make something useful? Repurpose it. Repurpose it. Turning it into a museum. Turn it into something of civic function. Purpose? Well, I'm sorry. Your apartment tenements no longer serve purpose. LOL.
He can't articulate it. He can't articulate it from a Marxist point of view. You know, to be fair, when the revolutionaries in France, La France as they say there, they didn't tear down Notre Dame Cathedral. Like, even when they had their little cult of reason, they repurposed Notre Dame Cathedral. They turned it into a warehouse. And it's interesting because, again, like, you get these ideologies that are completely devoid from spirituality and virtue, and they're focused on economic and like trying to make people equal. But even like those ideologies, they can't articulate why a building should be kept, but like the people deep inside, their human nature tells them like, yeah, this is a work of art. I can't really explain why it should remain, but I just think we shouldn't tear it down. I don't know what it is. Like, I can't explain it either. But when you look at a church, like if I were to see the pyramids, all right? Like, the pyramids, to me, they have no significance. But for some reason, I wouldn't want them to be torn down. Like, I would be appalled if someone was to decide to tear down the pyramids. I think, like, when something is that old and that ancient, and it's got, like, a lot of history in it, and it's been preserved up till now, it should be our duty to keep preserving it. It's almost like an achievement of humanity that's on display there. Like, people from the past, from the ancient times, without any sort of technology that we have today, managed to erect those things. And it's such an achievement that I think it would be an insult to the actual workers who built them to tear it down. If you know what I mean. Because I think like by that logic, if we were to say that everything from the past needs to be destroyed because it's oppressive, then everything we do today can also be destroyed in the future. And it makes life kind of meaningless because anything you create is just going to be torn down by our children. So what's the point in building anything? What's the point in making something that's a work of art if it's not going to withstand any test of time? So yeah, but like all of these justifications don't come from a Marxist point of view. Like I'm not using a Marxist lens to make these justifications. The Marxist lens would be like, no, tear this shit down and build a tenant apartment in its place. That's the Marxist point of view. Or, build a cornfield in its place. Like make something that actually produces. Just create something that's actually good for society. It's like repurpose it. No, it's expensive to repurpose it. And why would you repurpose a religious building that promotes mysticism and, it can get a kid to walk on the street and ask, Mommy, what is that? Oh, well, it's about the Lord. What is the Lord? I now want to read the Bible. See, now you have kids coming up with weird concepts about religion and shit in a Marxist utopia. Horrible.
You want to make every city look like a suburban wasteland.
They literally did that in the USSR because they were following Marxist ideology. That, to be fair, the USSR also had nice art pieces. I mean, they did build kind of cool statues. And I was actually very upset when in Romania they tore down communist statues. I mean, some of them, sure, but like there were others that actually looked really good because they had I don't know, like this way of making art that only a person who lives under the boot and oppression is capable of making. Like, you would look at some of that communist art and you'd feel like the suffering of the people as you glanced at it. Like, it was so nice and beautiful, and like it inspired so much propaganda that you kind of knew that the artist was forced to make it. Like, some of the best songs are communist in nature because of that. So I was really upset when Romania decided to burn down a lot of paintings and a lot of propaganda posters and tear down statues because, again, like, that's part of culture. It's like it existed. There was a generation of people that lived under the Iron Curtain, and I think the memory and the suffering that they endured should have been left on display so that other people understand, yeah, my God, like that must have been harsh. But no, like, as every revolution, it's like, tear down everything that has to do with the previous system. And they tore down a lot of statues, a lot of historical landmarks and other things. And it's a shame.
Fuck you! Jesus! You want to make every city look like a suburban wasteland. Turn it into a club!
To be honest, turning the church into a club would definitely be a Marxist thing to do. Like, that would actually be... The acoustics of it would also be great.
God, you edgy Reddit fedora-tipping atheists!
Ha! Actually, this is just a symbol of oppression. G_G_OD is not real, and actually, by removing totems to this archaic practice, we're advancing society.
Isn't this what the left is all about in the United States? It's like, yeah, tear down the statues, they remind us of oppression. Cancel this, rename this military base, rename this school, rename this, rename that, rebrand this. Oh, we got a company, Aunt Jemima is problematic, tear her down, replace her with something else. The Muppets, oh my God, the Muppets. Why don't you take this energy and apply it to all the other shit? Because it would fit like a fucking team. Like, no wonder the people in the chat are confused. I would be confused as well. like, okay, so for all the other things, it's okay to tear it down. Like, how old is the Aunt Jemima thing? Because they rebranded, they took the picture of her, and it's like, oh, the picture of her was problematic. Uncle Ben as well? Like, Uncle Ben is one of the first American commercials that I got to see after communism fell. It was like Uncle Ben, and you can make like good rice, and like everyone saw it on television. It was good shit. Now apparently Uncle Ben is problematic. It's the same energy on why this church has to go. But like, I love the fact that Vaush is probably one of the YouTubers that can go against his chat and no one cares. I mean, I think it's a shtick, like chastising the chat. Like, oh, you piggies, you wrong thinkers. How dare you? Fuck you too. Fuck you that. Everyone fucking know. Is he going to mute the chat? Like, does he mute the chat? I think he mutes the chat every now and then. That's something. Should I try it? Should I mute my chat? Huh?
Fuck you.
Vaush bad. Vaush bad. Vaush bad.
Leftists be like, at least it made the chuds mad.
Well, I'll tell you this. There's going to be less pollution. It's going to be helping Mother Gaia. At least in my country, you know, we don't have a lot of parking lots. Do you know what people do when they can't find a place to park? They do the merry-go-round around the building. And they go, and as they're doing the merry-go-round, trying to find a free parking space, oh, they're emitting more carbon. So yeah, I mean, I can again make the Marxist argument on why that church should be a parking lot. Less pollution.
Oh yeah, here's a Destiny tweet. Wow, describes you guys. Start using gamer language. Don't say, I adore this gothic building. Do say, yo, this building is bloodborne as fuck. Thank you. How prescient.
Look at how they're trying to explain. How they're trying, like, no other ideology would require an explanation, okay? Like, you don't need to explain to a normal person why tearing down a church that has been there for 100 years is not a good thing. Oh, I mean, maybe there are other ideologies that would explain why it's a good thing to do it. Like, for example, a different religion. I don't know, say Islam. You know, like they would conquer a land and then they would decide, yeah, I mean, we want to convert people here, so we can't have churches. But I think like even in Turkey, there was an old Christian building, forgot the name of it, and the Sultan, Erdogan, didn't tear it down, it just repurposed it, and they're having Islamic prayer in it right now. So even like opposing ideologies, they go like, yeah, this building is kind of old. Let's not tear it down. I mean, let's repurpose it. Let's turn it into a mosque or something.
The point is that the building isn't particularly historically relevant. The point is that the building isn't particularly historically relevant. It's not like it's the Notre Dame. It doesn't have to be the Notre Dame.
Notre Dame or
you
bust.
You guys don't know how good you have it.
Notre Dame or bust. Oh my god.
Okay, in America, we don't have any buildings of historic significance. In America, we don't have any buildings of historic significance, okay? We have nothing. All we have are gigantic glass skyscrapers, apartment tenements, and office buildings, okay? In Europe, you people have centuries-old buildings made of
I don't think
brick.
that's entirely true. I mean, you do have buildings of significance in America. I mean, the White House would be one. The Statue of Liberty. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can say, well, they're not as old, but like, I mean, this church, this chapel is 100 years old, and it's worth preserving. So yeah, I mean, the Statue of Liberty is an example that I would view as the mascot of American culture, if you will.
Made of brick and stone. We don't have that. Made of brick and stone. We don't have that over here, okay? And when we see pictures of from Europe with these beautiful historic buildings, we feel envy. Don't tear down the only thing Europeans do better than Americans, okay? Don't destroy that one thing that positively distinguishes you.
I think
okay?
we do communism better than Americans.
One of these days,
we had it.
I'm gonna fly to Europe, and when I do, I don't want to see every single fucking non-Notre Dame chapel tore down in place of a fucking shopping mall.
I don't worry, no one will tear down a mosque. Like, if you were to try and tear down a historical mosque, I mean, the outrage from the politicians would be immense. And I feel like most of the people in the chat would be against it. They wouldn't, again, like a Marxist wouldn't be able to articulate why. Except that I guess it's like it pisses off nationalists. Like that would be the only reason why. But other than that, no. Like if this was a mosque instead of a chapel, you wouldn't be having this conversation. Like everyone would be on the same page. Yeah, like don't destroy the mosque, don't build the parking space. And by the way, if it was a 100-year-old mosque, I would also be like, yeah, no, like just leave it there. Leave it the fuck alone. just leave it the fuck alone. Historical building, don't touch it. But if it's a chapel, the Marxists lose their shit.
Ooh. I do think it's just a little funny. I'm pretty sure you've historically said. Vaush, I do think it's just a little funny. I'm pretty sure you've historically said something along the lines of, imagine revering something just because it's old, and you're this passionate about a pretty old-looking building, a pretty looking old building.
He did say that, didn't he?
Just because you don't venerate tradition doesn't mean you can't appreciate the product of a dying architectural style. Buildings aren't built like this anymore. There are a finite number of them.
What is he saying
We're
about
not
Confederate
getting more.
statues? Controversial.
They're not as efficient to build. They cost more. They're not as efficient to build. They cost more. They're expensive. We only get so many of them. Eventually, we will not have more of this type of building. Cool, and we'll have pictures forever. Wow, I'm actually going to turn into a Nosbo because of you people. This is the Nosbo
Imagine,
vortex.
I know it's
didn't
a
realize
joke,
the
but like
Event
imagine
Horizon-
believing that just because you don't want something old to be torn down, you must be a Nazi.
I thought the Event Horizon would be trading trans rights for healthcare. Apparently the Event Horizon is you dumb fucks fucking virtue signaling by declaring that actually it's a good thing that beautiful fucking chapels should be torn down because their owners can't afford to renovate. But you know, that's okay. Whatever. Why not tear down another building? There have to be other buildings we can tear down to put shopping malls over, okay? Jesus. Nah, fuck all. I'm not listening to you people.
Why don't I get into conundrums like this? Like, why is it that I never get to condemn something and then defend something else and like contradict myself on principle? I don't know. Kind of interesting. Maybe because I don't want to take away things from other people just because I don't like it. It's like, I don't like this, censor it, make it go away. This statue, evil, tear it down. And then when it's something that I would like, I would be like, oh shit, I actually like this. Oh, but I said in the past that, how can I justify now? It's beautiful, okay? You just don't understand. You're simpletons. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.